Welcome everybody to another great episode of Real Life Matters. And of course, I'm your host, DBoss. And before we start, can you please subscribe to the YouTube channel, DBoss Networks, and also to all the guests that come on, support them, go like their pages, because I know most people are working from home, so it only takes a minute. But today I have a very special and powerful lady. She's so much in the film industry. She's doing a lot of stuff in the Caribbean community, into the regular community, and she's just outstanding. So I have with us today Frances Ann Sullivan, and she's award-winning filmmaker, Academy Director, member, and CaribbeanTales Media Group. So I welcome her today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so glad to get you, and thank you so much for your busy schedule. To
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well,
Yeah.
Frances Ann, all we're hearing is Caribbean Tales. You know, when you started this, did you think that the vision was going to come this far?
I hope so. I certainly hope so. For sure. Yeah, you don't start something and think, "Oh, it's going to stay small. It's never going to get anywhere." So, and I think there's a lot more we can do. So, yeah, I'm glad thank you for your recognition. I appreciate that.
Yes. And so you can you tell everybody, Frances, and where you come from and
So
your
I'm from
background
Trinidad.
and the whole
Yeah.
thing.
I come from Trinidad originally. My parents are from Trinidad, and I grew up all over the world really. Then when I was 18, I came to Canada, and I went to university here. Then I moved to the UK, which is where I was born, in fact, and worked for a long time, for 10 years, at the BBC in England as a producer, an executive producer in drama, in single
Okay.
drama and films. And then after leaving the BBC, I wanted to start an organization that would be like the BBC, not ambitious at all, but that
So
would
you worked
serve.
with you were born in England and then you worked for BBC.
I was born in England, grew up in the Caribbean, went back to England as an adult, and worked for the BBC. Yeah, and then when I left the BBC, I wanted to start an organization that would be like the BBC, but that would be for people of color. That would tell our stories. And so I started Caribbean Tales, and the vision was that if this would be an organization that would create, market, um, and sell, create, produce, market, and sell content, which would be our stories and our voices. So that was the vision. And so, yeah, 20 years later, here we are. Caribbean Tales, we have the Caribbean Tales is basically a pipeline of activities, starting with we do training and development of content, training of producers, development of content, and then we do production of content, and then we do exhibition, which is our film festivals. We have 3 film festivals: Caribbean Tales International Film Festival, the Windrush Caribbean Film Festival in the UK, and Cinefam International Film Festival that supports women of color creators. And then we have our distribution department, which includes Caribbean Tales TV, an online VOD platform, Black Market Releasing, which is our new company that does theatrical cinema distribution in Canada, and Caribbean Tales Worldwide Distribution that does international sales. So that was the vision, that we have those, that we are able to offer a pipeline of services, a kind of full service, um, you know, company that does everything in the screen based industry space.
Right. So you're definitely coming out of the colonialism that everybody's talking about, because a lot of people are still in the stigma and the different things, but you have stepped out of the box to say, okay, you know what? I am going to do something that of women and people of color to showcase our stories And it's not so much, it's not to say it's a black thing or nothing like that, but you want to show the stories. So the first film you did, for people that don't know you out there, what's the first film that you did, and behind what's behind that?
Well, you mean as a director? Because I work as a
Yes.
director, also as well as a producer and businesswoman, if you like, company owner. Um, my first film as a director was called "What My Mother Told Me," and it was basically the stories my mother told me when I was growing up about the breakup of her marriage, and yeah, no fairy tales
Wow.
there. Yeah, the breakup of her marriage and sort of domestic violence and abuse, generational trauma, and yeah, that was my first film. So yeah.
So that was something that you did, that film. So what was the response from the public? They were like, "Wow, does that really relate to them and relate to people and the situations they're in now?"
Well, this was like 25 more than 25 years ago that I made my first film, eh?
Okay.
So films about domestic violence and things like that, female-led and driven stories with black female characters at the center were not that common at the
Hmm.
time, to say the least. So
Okay.
yeah, what 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 I love about that film is that it has stood the test of time. I feel of all the films that I've made, it's the one that people still remember and that people still want to see and stuff like that, because I feel like it was kind of timeless. So yeah, it was quite impactful for me and for a lot of people at the time, and I feel like it's still one of my favorite works and one of my most honest and personal, obviously. Yeah.
So how did your family feel when you put all their business and their laundry in a film? You never get to ask that, because people do these things and be like, "Oh." So how did they
Yeah.
feel?
Oh well, the headline in the newspapers in Trinidad was what Francis Anne Solomon's mother told her about her father. So that was the headline in the local papers. Um, it was kind of scandalous, um,
Mm,
because now we have the Me Too movement. Now we have um, you know women's voices are being uplifted, and you know men are being outed, whether it's domestically or professionally. They're being called out on certain kinds of behavior, and they have to change their behavior. But back then it was just gossip and scandal, partly. And
and yeah,
in terms of my parents, my mother was really was really with me all along the way. Obviously, she we made it together, in a way. And my brother was a producer on it, and my
oh,
father
okay.
never spoke to me again. He never spoke to me
Oh,
again ever in my whole life. Yeah, that was it. That was the end of our relationship, as well as his entire family. Yeah. So
so wait a minit. So did your mom get a divorce, or he divorced, or he left, or he just
yeah,
said, "I'm not dealing with
they
this"?
were they were divorced. Yeah, they had already been divorced for a long time. Yeah. So
But
it was,
wow.
yeah, but it was very, you can say, well, how could she do that and stuff like that. But it was very therapeutic, and it was very, it was very honest, and it kind of needed to be said. It kind of needed to be said that that there are there are things that shouldn't happen even in a marriage,
Mm,
and that there are things that passed on from generation to generation, by men, um, you know in male behavior, toxic masculinity, they call it now,
mhm,
things that are passed on, dysfunctional, generational trauma that gets passed on. And how do you stop that? Except by kind of articulating it, by saying, this is what is happening. Because, what we call gaslighting now. We didn't have that word back then, right? But you know, if there was no way to say, this is, you're doing this, don't do it,
Mm.
because the answer would sort of be, what, I don't know what you're talking about. And because men are powerful in our cultures, then the whole society lines up behind them and says that you're making things up. So it was important to kind of make a film and show it on a big screen and say, now what do you say?
And it's and it's
What are you
and
gonna
then
say
it's one of
now?
those,
Okay. It's
and then
like,
you're gonna well, Francis, what are you gonna say? And then plus he knows it's the truth because your brother sat there and helped you write it, and then your
exactly.
brother was there, so that's
Yeah.
that's
So
more confirmation that this actually went on. But for his whole side of the family to not speak to you guys, that's
it's
well,
like,
I guess you
okay.
don't miss them. Oh well.
No, I was like, oh, okay. My grandfather said to me, I'm never gonna speak to you for the rest of my life. I'm like, okay, so you're 90 now. That's not a very long time. I was like, I thought it was hilarious. I was like,
It is.
I'm sorry. I thought it was pretty funny. It was like, that's all he could say. That's the only weapon he had. It's like, I'm never
He
speaking to you
couldn't
again
say,
for the rest
"Well,
of
I'm
my.
sorry the way my son treated you guys," or
Exactly,
something.
exactly, exactly. Like, what about, I'm really glad that you were able to, thank you for saying those things. And because now I realize that I did the wrong thing, and I'm sorry. I apologize. But no, no. So
Well,
what
maybe
can I
maybe
do?
the grandfather was doing that too, so maybe that hit home.
Exactly, exactly. So
No, but it probably it probably hit home to a lot of people,
yeah,
and
I had a lot of people calling me up and say, like, to this day, there
mm,
was a young man last year. This film was made in 1995, right? So I had a young
mm,
man last year do a review of it and say, this is such a powerful film. It speaks to me directly. So so many people, so many women, so many young people, so many people who have experienced being ostracized
mm.
and outcast and gaslit, um, kind of tracked me, told me how meaningful it was to me, to them. And it was meaningful to me and to my mother, to be able to say, this is what happened. See it there on a big screen. Okay, now what are you going to
But
do?
you see, but you see what happened is that see you and your mother took a stand and you showed people, but they got people that have relationships and they're still in it, before you have Christmas dinner or before you have any dinner that people argue. People don't talk about those things. Or as soon as your
Exactly.
family, at Christmas time or the holidays, they don't say, oh, all our family came over. But as soon as all the family gets together, there's one big whole oh, I remember. As soon as somebody has a little drink or a little something, I remember this in
Yeah.
1988. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And then
those things
everybody, yeah.
happen.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the thing. And so, and then, you don't say anything because you're afraid of repercussions, right? Because
Hmm.
my family was a powerful family in the Caribbean, it was a very important family. And so, for us to say for me to say those kinds of things publicly, it was like, what is what they have power. They
Mm.
have the power to, you know, not they have all kinds of power, and they used it over the years to make sure that nobody ever stopped them, stop their
From
behavior.
doing
So
that.
yeah, when all they really has had to do was, say, I'm sorry, and go into therapy,
Yeah.
that would have been the end of it, and we
They're
would
not
have
going to
said,
go because they
okay.
think nothing's wrong with them.
Exactly. But for as long as human beings can get away with bad behavior, that there
Hmm.
are no checks and balances. There's no. But you see, in the what we now what is now being used social media is being used for, right?
Right.
Nowadays something, people are going, it's cancel culture. You go on social media and you can call out people, right? And that's a very
Mm-hmm.
powerful thing. I agree with it, because it means all of a sudden nobody's protected anymore. I mean,
No.
sometimes it's abused, but
Right.
nobody can hide anymore, because one person goes out and says so and so did something to me, and then another 15 people come, another 20 people come. We've seen it happen again and again and again and again. Back then you
A
didn't have
hundred
social
people
media, so
coming,
I mean,
but it takes one person to start it, and you started that with the film.
well,
That's
yeah, but
powerful.
we didn't have social media then, right? So
No, you
it
didn't
was
have any
just like
social
I made
media.
a no. So I just made my movie and I put it up on the screen. Invited everybody to come and see it. So
Non-cousins, whoever cousins.
yeah,
But that was, that's pretty honorable, and for you to do that, and you had the support of your family, because some people have to do it alone and they don't
on
have
their
that
own.
support.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's
No
it's
one.
it's it's sort of it's not it's a taboo in our culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our culture, I think in Black culture, in Caribbean culture, there's
Mm-hmm.
no but like if you go to India, right, where women are burned, right, and killed, girl children are killed, women are burned. The feminist movement is very, very, very strong. And they
Mm.
stand up against that. There's a strong tradition in India and certain South Asian countries, of incredible feminist bravery, right? And it's a movement. Whereas in our culture, it's completely foreign to do something like that.
Mm-hmm. But they do
Because,
other things.
what in our culture, what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah. They like to hide. Be
Yeah,
careful. They like to hide everything, even though
hide
everybody
everything.
knows,
Everybody
and even
knows,
when
but
they
we hide it.
speak. Yeah, and then they're speaking, they're hiding it too. They say it in a certain way, so you
Yeah,
hope that everybody will maybe pick up, but they're not really picking up. Or then, and
yeah.
also there's an ignorance to it, because what people do is just, if something's happening in the family, oh, don't worry, Billy. If something's happening in the family and stuff like that, people see it, we all see it, but we all just kind of like don't say nothing.
Exactly. And then once I put the film up there, then
Mm-hmm.
so many people, started talking. I knew that. I knew that. I remember when such and such happened, and all these stories were coming out that people had been keeping to themselves or saying behind closed
Mm-hmm.
doors. They were calling me up and saying, I knew that was, such and such was happening. I remember when XYZ. And so I think it's very healthy for people to be able to
Mm-hmm.
tell the truth and stand in their truth. you know I think it's very important. It's not always a nice thing to do to people who you care about. And I'm sorry that both my grandfather and my father died without
Mm-hmm.
ever reconciling with me, actually. Without they died without, I don't know, without ever coming to. I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they did
Maybe in
internally.
their mind they did, but they couldn't.
Maybe.
They're too proud to come and say it. That pride
And
steps
what is
in.
that? What is that?
Yep.
That's ridiculous. I think it's so wrong. I think more than anything else, I think it's sad.
Yeah.
I think it's sad to not be able to say, look, I really screwed up. I am so
Mm.
sorry. I have problems. I
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong. What's wrong with saying that? And then you get forgiveness and you can be
Mm-hmm.
reconciled in a real human authentic way with the people that
Mm-hmm.
you care about and who care about you. I think that's the kind of one lesson I took from my father is, when I make mistakes, and I make mistakes all the time, okay? When
Yes.
I make mistake, I will be the first person to say, you know what, I'm really sorry. I should not have done that. I do it on a daily basis. Every time I think that I have done something that is not the right thing by somebody else, I want to have a clean conscience. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to go to sleep at night. I want, when I die, that I feel like I've done my best, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise guilt eats my brain. Do you know what I mean?
Rest in
So,
peace. For
yeah,
people not to know what that word means, rest in peace.
rest in peace. There you go. So,
Yes. No, but I'm just admirable that you did something like that. Are you going to do the movie? You think again to update it, or are you just going to leave it,
Um,
or maybe have a
well,
different twist?
there are always different stories to tell. You know, there's
Okay.
so many different stories. So I don't have to tell that story again. That's my
You lived
that's
out
kind
that
of
one.
no. They always say that the first film you make, the first film that you make is always that kind of your story.
Okay.
If you're a filmmaker, it's your story, and then that kind of determines. It kind of gives you a voice. It kind of teaches you what your own voice is. Because as
Mhm.
a filmmaker, as an artist, as a filmmaker artist, as a film artist, the tools that we have, where we're not using paints, we're using our, well, as artists generally, we're using our emotions, we're using our own life stories. Those are the things that we know. Those are the things that we can depict authentically and that are original. Otherwise, we're copying other people. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So when you make a film that when you make a film that is your story, right? That teaches you how to use your tools, your
Mm,
art,
you see?
your creativity. And then when you go on and make other films, you can draw on that experience. So I'm never going to make another film like that, but
So how long
I
did it take to make that film?
um it took maybe 3 years or something. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
No, that's nothing. That's nothing.
Okay. You said that's nothing. About 3 years. Well,
Short.
I guess you had to get the detail. So what's the next film you did after that one?
Oh, I made lots and lots of films. I made a lot of films. Yeah, I made a lot of films.
You did you
But
did you did one with Idris Elba in there, right? Too. No,
not me, no.
no,
Um, the last
no.
film I made was called Hero, and that
Hero.
was all. Yeah, and that was also quite a an interesting journey for me because my mother, told me that she wanted me to make a film about a friend of hers, a friend of our family. His name was Ulrich Cross, and at the time that I knew Ulrich, he was already in his 90s. He had been um, a very decorated um, person in the RAF during the Second World War,
Hmm.
and that was kind of what people knew about him. So when I began to research his life, because my mother was adamant, she really wanted me to make this film,
Wow.
I discovered that after the war, he was recruited by another Trinidadian man called George Padmore to go to Ghana on independence. And so he was
Okay.
actually on the ground in Ghana when, that Ghanaian flag went up and the British flag came down. And he
Yes.
was part of that incredible movement at that particular point in time when African countries, Caribbean countries, were becoming free of colonialism and kind of declare it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that moment? All your life, you've been like, only able to get a certain level of job, and you're a colonial citizen, and all of a sudden you're free. Your country is free. You can now
Yes.
be the prime minister, the head of your
Yes.
country. You can have those top jobs. You're running the country. So it was a moment of great glee and exhilaration in the empire. And he was part of that. He served as a lawyer because Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first black president of Ghana, he had to restructure the whole country from being colonial to being independent. So
Yeah.
the country's resources were now being at the service of the country rather than the service of England, right? So so he got all these lawyers together to rewrite the constitution to be an independent. So he was one of those lawyers. So he served in Ghana, he served in Congo, he served in Tanzania. As these countries became independent, he was recruited to go and be part of these architects of independence.
So
So
was
it
he
was a
worked for
fast.
BBC too, right?
He also worked for the BBC. Yeah, incredible. Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
it was interesting to see him how I saw that I saw it, and how he transformed and how he, he went through a lot of stuff there.
He
But he
did. He had a
just
long
wouldn't,
life.
he wouldn't take anything. He wouldn't back down, like he said,
Yeah,
no, I'm going to do this. Okay, if we have to start again, then we're going to start again. So it was his
exactly.
daughter. I think he showed that the daughter was taking the notes of him every day, right? But it wasn't, but
Exactly.
you actually, for the movie, you took it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Wow. And he had to endure the smoking. He was smoking while he was doing it. He was telling the story.
When he was telling, he wasn't smoking in his 90s, but
Okay.
he smoked all his life. Yeah, he
He
smoked. Oh,
smoked,
oh,
yeah.
oh, just sorry. Yeah, he smoked all his life.
Wow. So when you did
Yeah.
the story, so what did your mom must have been like, and how long did that one take to do?
You see what I mean? That one actually took me 10 years. I'm gonna get.
10
Sorry, sorry.
years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it took 10 years to make. And what did my mother think? Well, for the nine and a half years of those 10, she was just vexed. When you're gonna finish that film?
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
when you're gonna finish that film? You see, I you're letting me down. I'm gonna die, and the film's not gonna be finished yet. I'm so sorry about the dogs and the phone and
That's okay.
everything.
Don't worry about it. People have the dogs coming all the time.
Yeah,
They want to go see who's on the camera. They're hearing the voice for the dog.
I don't know what's going on.
So,
Yeah.
did you get funding? Is that why it took a little time to do, or is because you had to travel to different places, or what was it?
Well, my mother was a person together with the other producer Lisa Wickham from Trinidad who raised the money, and they got money from Trinidad, raised the money from the Caribbean, and so they got
Okay.
money from Republic Bank in Trinidad and Tobago, and then also I got money here in Canada from the Arts Councils and from Telefilm. So yeah, it did take some time because it wasn't a conventional story,
Okay.
so it did take some time. But at the same time, and we didn't have a big budget. We had a very, very humble budget, and we did travel all over the world to do it. So we shot it in Trinidad, in Ghana, and in England, as well as we did all the
Jeez.
post production in Canada. Yeah, and we had a very small budget. So really, part of it was that because the budget was small, I really wanted to make sure. They always say if you don't have money, take time. So I was determined to take as much time as I needed in order to make the film that I need, that would be the best possible film. And then the other thing was that I don't think I'd ever seen a film like this before, you know?
No.
And so for me, I don't think I'd ever heard a story like this before, you know? So for me, it was a question of finding the story and finding the way of telling the story. And that also took a long time. That artistic journey of finding the style, finding the narrative, finding the storyteller, and then actually making the film like was a long one, and then getting the money little by little. So that's why it took a long time. I mean, I guess I could have made a standard documentary to start with, you know what I mean? But I
Yes.
really I wanted it to really be something that people would remember and that would take you inside this man's head and go on a journey with him.
Well, I
And
did. Well, I seen it. People are up there. We need to go watch it, Hero. But it's I've seen it, and the part with his wife. When he married a white lady or a white lady, and everybody it was fun. And I remember when he went somewhere and she was in the house and she didn't want to move again. And she says, "Well, if you want to stay with that, you could stay there because I'm going." And she ended up, and I think they ended up going back to Trinidad. I think it was when they were in Africa somewhere.
yeah,
So
that's right. She was very happy in Cameroon,
she
and
had a ball. She
he
didn't want to leave. Oh, she had to because she had the
yeah,
school and the school there.
that's right. Yeah. And
That's a
meanwhile,
big
he was
sacrifice for her to do that.
Yeah, it was. And he was aware of the corruption that was happening in the government, and he wanted to move on. You know, he felt that he was the attorney general of the country, and he felt that he couldn't really, he couldn't continue to be part of this corrupt regime at the time, and so he wanted to move on. He wanted to get out as quickly as possible before anything terrible happened, and she wasn't aware of that level of stuff. So they had this wonderful argument. You're correct, um, where she said, "I'm not going." And he said, "You can't do that. You're my wife." And she said, "Yeah, but you just can't tell me what to do." He said, "Yes, I can." She goes, "No, you can't. You can't just tell me what to do." So it's like early feminism. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
But I know she ended up going, but she didn't want to go because she had to leave one of the people in charge to continue on, continue what she was doing because
Running
she
the
was doing a
school.
good
The
thing there.
hospital. It
Yeah, the
was the
hospital.
hospital. Yeah.
Yes, the hospital. That was
Hmm.
hard. That was hard that
Yeah.
was a hard choice for her. She was doing it for so long, did it really well, and then all of a sudden just her jump up because this man saying he got to jump up, he don't want to settle down, he's gone. And they had a nice house. I
Exactly.
remember they were living in a smaller place before, but it took a lot of convincing for him
Yeah.
to come go to Cameroon. Like he's
Yeah.
been there, and as a person, you think, geez, when you think of your career, he had so many different, this he had to. Oh, you know what? I'm not taking this. Boom, I'm out. I'm going to the
Yeah.
next one. And
Yeah.
a lot of people won't do that because some people will sit at their job for 20, 30 years. No, this two,
That's
three, I
right.
smelling a rat. I'm coming out.
Exactly. Yeah. No, he's like, I am not staying. No.
No, he
He
wouldn't
said
stand it.
he.
It was a very strong character.
Yeah. Thank you both for that. I appreciate
So
it. Yeah.
so these people that are acting in this film for 10 years is the same character. So they stayed with you during that whole process.
They did, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, the central character. I mean, the central character, especially Nikolai Salcedo.
Yes.
He actually, he traveled with us through. We left Trinidad. He's a Trinidadian. We left Trinidad. We went to England, where we lived for a couple months when we shot the pieces in England. Then we went to Ghana, and lived there for a couple months. And then we came back, and then he actually, to support to help me finish the film, he actually moved to Canada for 3 years and lived with me. Yeah, so
Wow.
that we could finish working on the film. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well, that's dedication for 10
yeah.
years for these
So
people to keep with you to
dedication.
build this, to make this film, this film documentary. Wow, hero. Some of these guys today now
Yeah,
filmmaking, they wouldn't
true.
maybe they wouldn't do that. They probably. But
Well,
anyways,
I think it depends on. Yeah,
on the people, right?
yeah. Hmm.
So the next one after that, you had another film. Uh,
Well, no, that was the last film I
That was
made.
the
That was
last
the
film,
last
right?
film I. Yeah.
Okay,
So coming
but you
up, I
have
have a number of projects. Yeah.
okay. So the ones, so what's so the one that's coming up? It's Sons. I think it's leave. What's it? Or
In the
Sons.
Black. There's one called In the Black, which is
Oh, In
Denim
the Black.
Jolly's story.
Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
okay. And what's that one about?
Yeah, that's about it's Denim Jolly's 12-year journey to start Canada's first Black radio station. So Denim Jolly is a businessman here in Canada, Jamaican, um, Canadian businessman. Um, Philanthropist and
Oh,
entrepreneur, incredible person. Actually, he's done so much for our community, and he wrote a book a couple years ago, about 5 years ago, about his life story. And when I read the book, I got in touch with him, and I said, this is an amazing story, and I believe I can get it made. So we're actually making two films about him.
okay,
One tells, which is called In the Black, which tells the story of this 12-year journey. That,
okay.
you think I took 10 years to make a film. It took him 12 years to get Canada's first black radio station off the ground. Um,
Wow.
Flow 93.5, 12
Okay.
years. Yeah. So I wanted to tell that story. because I feel that it's important for people to know how hard it is for us as people in the media to to you know get our to 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 get our stories out there, to have
Mhm.
platforms that are for us, you know. I thought it's a very important story. People now turn on the radio and you hear urban music, you hear black music, you hear calypso, you hear reggae, but
And
back
you weren't
then
hearing that
none.
before.
No, back then, radio stations were not playing that music,
Mhm.
and so that meant that we had a whole generation of young artists, who were coming up, who were not be able to make a living with their work, who were completely overlooked. So so his work was really important in terms of creating a platform for Black music in this country, um, and I wanted to honor that. So that's the story. And right now we're in the late stages of packaging that film, and I'm hoping
Okay.
that we will be successful and get the money and make it later this year.
All right. And Sons of the Grave. That's the
What
newest
is
one.
it? No, Sons of the Grave, I believe, is Sasha's film.
Oh, what says this from? Okay. So the next one, which is the so okay, so you did this one. So you said you did some short films or longer ones that you said that you've done a lot.
um, oh, I've made okay, so over the years, I produced 5 feature films for the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was at the BBC, I was responsible for developing and producing films by filmmakers of color. So I
Mm-hmm.
produced 5 feature films there while there, and then after I came to Canada, we produced a TV series called Lord Have Mercy. I don't know if you remember it. It was with a lot of amazing Trinidad um, talent. So
So
did
you
you
called
know?
it Lord Have Mercy.
It's
So
called Lord.
what was the thought behind calling it Lord? You know, people in the
Well,
West
it was
Indies
a
always
it,
say that Lord have
it,
mercy.
exactly. So it was a sitcom set in a Caribbean church on
Okay.
Eglinton. That's what it was, and it was one set of confusion and bacchanal happening inside of this church, between the different characters. There was the older pastor who was played by Sprangalang, from Trinidad, and then you had the young pastor played by Arnold Pinnock. You had the young pastor's wife. Um, You had Russell Peters, who played the young pastor's friend, who was just a scandalous person, and then you had the older church lady, right, which was being played by Leonie Forbes, who's an incredible Jamaican actress at the time, and then we had Debbie Young playing
Wow.
the granddaughter. So it was an incredible cast, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, that's a good title. Lord have mercy. People be saying that's such a common, title, expression that people be saying. If somebody die, they say it. If somebody's happy, they say it. If something's going on, they say it. So, um, it's just something to be noticed. So you've worked with so many different actors and actresses and stuff. So who would you like to work with that you haven't in your next film coming up?
Oh, there's no limit to the people that I would love to work with, to be honest. There's so much talent around. It's very exciting. I suppose I'd love to work with Regina King. That would be exciting. Did you see Regina King in The Harder They Fall?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen The Harder They Fall?
Yes, yes,
Did you see her? Didn't you
yes,
want to just be her? She was
yes.
so
But she
she was
really
so
pushed the
she was
envelope on that
so
character. Everybody that
yeah,
played
and
in
she
that
was so
film
gangster.
was just, like above and beyond. They really, and they put their
True.
hair the same way their hair would be back in those times. And sometimes you're looking at, they really put the movie like it was set in that time, and everybody looked how they were in that time, even down to the beard. It wasn't groomed. They were just scruffy.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought that movie was so much fun. Yeah.
And who else?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many
You
people I
don't
get
know.
to
There's
work
so
with.
many people you
No.
don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh God.
So yeah.
No, no, because sometimes you just never know. Sometimes people might reach out to you, maybe say, "Hey, we want to do something," and they saw it. You saw it here. So,
Hmm.
what? So, what more can we expect from Francis Anne with all your titles?
Well, I think this is our time.
Hmm.
That's correct. This is our time. So we have to really take advantage of this moment in time when opportunities have opened up. The world is listening. The world is waiting for us to tell our stories, and so that's what we need to do. And me personally, like I said, with Caribbean Tales. We have two wonderful training programs that we're running for emerging mid-career and more experienced producers. One is the Black Studio Access Incubator for Black producers, and the other one is called Limitless, which is for female producers of color.
Wow.
So we're going to be really so we're looking forward to supporting a lot of voices, incredible voices by Black and women of color throughout the Canadian industry. And then in terms of productions, we have about 10 or 15 new productions that we're looking forward to producing over the next few years. And then our festivals are doing really well. So we're going to be showing films here in England by women and Caribbean filmmakers. And then finally, our distribution arm, we're looking forward to putting lots of films by people of color into the cinemas. So it's going to be a great time over the next few years. I hope the thing is really just to survive the wave. Sometimes I feel so overwhelmed, by everything that I'm trying to do now and that I'm hoping to do. But at the same time, I feel like, yes, this is our time. It's not too late. I'm living my best
No.
life right now, and I want to live until I die. I want to live until I drop dead. I'm not going to stop.
See,
I'm
no,
not going to
no
slow down.
retirement. No, you don't retire. There's
No,
no retirement.
no. My whole life has been a joy. I really feel privileged to have been able to do the things that I have done, and I'm looking forward to doing much, much more. So, yeah,
Do
it's
you want to do
exciting.
more traveling to do your stuff, or if you have to
Honestly,
film, or you prefer to do the filming in location here in Canada?
Honestly, I have to travel, but to be absolutely honest, I'm an introvert, right? I live inside of my head. So I don't, if I spent all my time in this one room making films, I'd be quite happy. But unfortunately, in order to make the films, you have to travel, right? You have to travel. You have
Okay.
to, yeah, I don't particularly like traveling. I travel in my mind, you know?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, we're getting up close here with with you and how you do your stuff. So if people want to come to you, and maybe they got a great story, so what would the process be? They just have to come to you, or they got to follow a protocol before to see if they have a great story that you'd want to do.
So write to CaribbeanTales@gmail.com, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, we'll get back to you for sure.
So they have to have a manuscript or something, or just an outline, or
Yeah, it depends on what the proposal is. Yeah, so for sure,
okay.
it should be as packaged as possible for sure. Mhm.
And hopefully you can get a budget for it, right? All right. So are there any shout outs that you'd like to say to anybody, your team, your anybody?
Well, I want to thank my incredible team. Actually, I'm privileged to work with in a company that is I'd say 95% women of color, Black women and women of color. It's such a privilege to be able to be in an environment which is a safe space for all of us to be creative, to be ourselves, to be our full self. So I want to shout out and the people that I work with, the people that I have the privilege of working with, incredibly dedicated, smart, brilliant people from Diana Webley, who's our festival director. She runs our events team. To some of the women who work with me on productions, Maya Bastian, Laura Friedman, Fernanda Cavalieri, to the people who work in distribution, Courtney Panchen, and the training department, Chantal, and on and on and on. I just feel so privileged to be able to hold space with these incredible humans that I work with, because this is my found family. This is my family. The company and these 4 dogs right here. Yeah.
Oh, you got 4 dogs. Oh, I thought it was one. I was saying,
No,
I
no,
said one was
4.
looking a little different. And I said, well, oh, maybe it's me. I said, maybe I'm
No, no, no,
sorry.
and don't make me show you them, because I will take the camera and I'll point. So don't make me do that. It'll be too messy.
Well,
they're
I've
the
had
they're
people
the
that had
pride
their
and joy of
dogs
my life.
inside the interview. They were holding it inside the interview. Sometimes you can't tell the pets, well, you know what, go sit over there, because then they're not, they don't want to do that. It's sort of funny when the cameras, they want to be right up in it. So so you also have a website where if people do want to see your films, where can they go to that? They pay.
So,
It's a paid prescription, right? Instead of Netflix.
sorry?
It's
Yeah.
like you said, there's a place that they can go view some of the films, or does that
For
change?
sure. Yeah, I'll just tell you all our websites quickly.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to go feed the dogs soon, though.
Okay, yeah.
Before,
Well, we're gonna be
before they
finishing.
eat
We're
before they
finishing up.
eat me. Yeah, before they eat me alive. They're starting to rebel. They're starting to
Oh,
rebel. They're like, we're hungry. Okay, so you can you can go the Caribbean Tales International Film Festival,
okay.
CaribbeanFestival.com,
All right.
CaribbeanTalesWorldwide.com, the Creators of Color.ca. Caribbean
Okay.
Tales TV is our VOD platform. Cinefam.ca is our website for women of color creators.
Okay.
The Windrush Caribbean Film Festival is our UK-based festival. The website is windrushfestival.com. And then
All
if
right.
you're really interested in, you can see my work on Caribbean Tales TV, and you can also find out about me at francisannesolomon.com.
Wow. Well, Francis, it has been a pleasure. I
It's
know
been a
sometimes
pleasure.
you don't get to sit down and really talk to people because you're so busy, producing and creating, and you said you're an introvert, so you just stay in. And I appreciate you coming today. And a lot of people didn't know. Well, they know of you, but now they're going to know a bit more of you and how you came about. So I do want to thank you, Francis Ann, and thank all your people, for taking the time to come on Real Life Matters today.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much. I really appreciate being here. Yeah.
Well, you got to come back when
Bye.
you get your new film. So everybody, bye for now.